Matt, welcome to the show. People first, then construction. Honor to have you here. You had some fun laughs coming on, but before we pushed record, it was fun. You made me laugh, right? The way you sort of showed up with a ton of energy, and that's the stuff that resonates. That's what we're talking about. That's why we're here, because we're here to be human beings first, and everything else sort of pivots around that. So welcome. Thanks for making time and space to be here. Truly appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm pumped. I'm ready.
All right, so sometimes we lead in with some sort of real random questions, and they are sort of designed to really make you think, and they don't mean anything. The only thing it's going to mean is whatever meaning you attach to it. So here's the question, and I want you to sort of respond the first thing that comes to mind. Ready for this one?
Let's do it.
Envision this: you're in a boardroom having a meeting, and an ostrich walks through the door with a sombrero on, yelling, screaming, and dancing. What's the first thing he says to you, and why is he there?
He says, "You guys did it. I'm ready. Let's party."
All right. See, I think this is the shit we're talking about, man. This is what we're talking about. It's that spontaneity. It is that's great. I love the way your brain works. I love the way you pivot into that, right? Like opportunistic. So, that's what, before we push record, and I want to bring our audience into this, because this is where it was exciting, was you showed up with energy. And my question was really simple to you. Like, what do you do on the days that we don't seem so energetic, right? And, why don't you share with the audience? When I said, Matt, when you got a shit moment in time or something rough's happening, what do you do, the self-awareness to pivot past that? And your response to me was what?
Well, I just go to bed. I go to sleep.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I love that. I truly do, because that's the self-awareness to say, okay, what I'm about to say or do or how I'm going to react is not going to serve well. So you know what I'm going to do? I'll see you later. Let me go sleep this one off, and I'll reconnect with you when able, right? Whether it's sleep, whether it's eat, whether it's like, I don't know, I'll go for a bike ride or run, whatever that is, folks, this is the thing. We're human beings. We're not robots. We don't need to run around like we have our shit together all the time. Sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
So, listen, Matt, thank you. When you hear the words, put people first, what does that mean to you?
Well, it means a lot, because I didn't always do that. I put other things first. I didn't realize people are your biggest asset in any situation, right? Could be romantic partner, could be in business. I know for me that whenever I had the right people, things got a lot better. And when I had the wrong people, things got a lot worse. Seemed to be the biggest shift in my life. So putting people first means, to me, intentionally thinking about the people, who they are, what they want, how to create a win-win. But that's the biggest variable. And when we look at companies, that's what everyone's trying to figure out, right? Everyone tries to run from people. You look at big companies, right? They're trying to automate. They're trying to run from it. Why? Because people, it's not easy. It's complex. But I think figuring this deal out, that's why I'm excited to be here. It's the biggest upside I think you can have in life when you invest in figuring out both yourself as a person and other people, and how to create amazing relationships, both in the workplace, romantically, friends, what have you.
That's amazing. Thanks. And folks, let that sink in for a moment. Now, I want to pivot back. You said something that sort of really pulled on my heartstrings. It wasn't always that way. You didn't always think that way first. Tell us about that.
Well, I grew up in a family business, right? So I was taught that nobody's going to work as hard as family. I was taught that you can't trust anybody off the street. I was taught all these things, and my dad wasn't wrong in teaching me that. That was his reality, but it really made things difficult for me because I lived in two worlds. Like, I remember looking at a massive construction company that had probably 3,000 employees, and we had, 8, 10, right? My dad's on every job. We're trying to be on all the jobs, and we're struggling to grow the business. And I'm like, Dad, but like, some people have it figured out. And like, I couldn't understand. I was young, 14, 15, and I'm living in these two worlds. One is like, they've got these tons of employees, people are happy, amazing company, and we struggle to keep 8, 10 people, and we can't trust. Like, it was just this belief system. And so I was taught, sales, family, like it was very much the opposite of where I am today.
Holy shit. So what happens next? Was there a shift for you? Did something occur that was a monumental? What happens next?
Well, I got to see things from a unique perspective, right? Because being the owner's son, but also being somebody who my heart really, I was a team player. And so my dad would show up on a job site, and I saw the things he did or didn't do that worked, right? Like he would show up and then he'd leave, and the guys would be all upset. They'd be like, "Oh, I don't want to work." They'd be like, "Your daddy came here," and so I have to deal with that. But I got to see firsthand, right? They'd be like, "Your dad, man, when he comes in and does this, like," and then I'd also see times where he'd rally the team and he'd get everyone together and he'd be like, "Hey, this is what we need to do. This is what we have to do." And I'd watch as like it was just like momentum, and all I was doing at that point was supporting the momentum. And so I got this really weird secondhand look because I was young. I was the owner's son, but I was young. I was 14, 15, 16 running these crews. And I got to see like what the effect of leadership has on people in both good leadership situations and bad leadership situations. And so I'm in this like weird kind of test tube experiment of just being very observant. And I was like, ooh, that worked really well. And then it was like, a guy would leave the job site and be so upset. He was like, "I'm walking home." I'm like, "You live 30 miles away." He's like, "I don't care. I'm walking home." It's like, what made them so unhappy? And so I realized that when the team was on board, when they were working, we could do anything. And when they weren't, nothing got done. And so I'm like, really, we're not talking about the bulldozer. We're not talking about the backhoe. We're not talking about we're talking about the team and the people. And that was the biggest upside or downside on the job site. And I learned that at a young age.
Wow. And I have empathy for you. We've grown up in similar worlds where I saw that as well. And, the generational changes and even just the workforce, which is something interesting that perhaps we'll pivot into in a moment. But that's an interesting thing. So you're seeing all this. You're a young teenager. You're 14, 15, 16 years old happening. Take me through again, I still want to know more. Like, do you capture these thoughts? Do you write them down? Do you like, so it sounds like you're taking what's working, massaging it and tailoring it appropriately, and then sort of spitting out what doesn't serve well. But what do you like? Is there something else there? Like, let's get into some of the grit there. Is there training? Is there leadership? Is there education? Is there like, what do you do to bring the two worlds together? I suppose is the right question. What did you do to bring the worlds together?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I had to do was my dad always had good intentions, but I took genuine leadership, right? So that was the first thing I did. Like, I had to take ownership of it. I couldn't have my dad. I'm like, "Dad, if you're going to show up in and out of the job, like, then you got to be responsible. But we can't have this thing where like I'm semi-responsible and you are like, let me handle it." So I created distance, right? I created space. I took ownership. And then I think one of the big things I did, and I didn't really know I did it, but my journey in construction was kind of like the Karate Kid. I started picking up trash at 9 years old, and my dad really started me at the bottom, and it was like I worked my way up, and I was paid based on how I grew. And so we never had any ego in our company. It's just one thing my dad did that was very right. Like, he didn't care what position you were, didn't care about how long you were there. Like, he cared about problem solving. And so whenever we had an issue on a job site, I would bring everybody together. Laborers, masons, foremen, senior guys, I remember we solved a huge issue. We had a water line, water's gushing out, and it's like this whole thing. I'm probably 16 at the time. I got 15 guys with me, and the person who figured it out had been on the job site a week. Right? I brought everyone together. I'm like, "What do we do? It's gushing out. The line wasn't supposed to be there. The utility company missed it when they marked it. And so it's gushing water. We got cars. It's a nightmare." So I bring everyone together, team huddle. And I said, "What do we think? Let's go around and let's start, there's 15 of us here. So one of us is going to, if not all, is going to figure out how to do this, but there's no safety net." And I remember this kid was like, "What if we," and I forget the solution he had at the time, but he ended up figuring it out. And it was so powerful because I'm like, he's only been here a week. He was the lowest paid person in the crew, and he figured out the biggest problem. So I think when you give everybody a voice, right, when you create an environment where people can listen, that's what I did, is I just tried to create space for people to communicate and voice their concerns in a way that didn't create a toxic culture, where it wasn't like, I'm going to talk bad about that person. So like if somebody started talking about my dad, I'd be like, hey, like, we need to keep, I understand where you're coming from, but we're not going to go there.
This is awesome.
That was the balance, right? It was like openness with boundaries.
That's it, right? And, we didn't know this at the time, or today we call that psychological safety, right? We're creating a space where people are safe, they're seen, they're heard, understood, and they know that they can speak their mind. But you did two magical things there that if anybody listened, the audience out there, if you take two things away, it's this. Matt, describe that. You set the boundaries. Here's what's onside, here's what's offside. Dad, you're in or you're out. Like, please don't. Respectfully, I love you, and don't show up and sort of start shit and then tap out. That doesn't serve well, right? And the boundaries again showed up again when like, hey, if somebody's gonna gossip and talk, talk poorly about somebody else, okay, folks, chill. We're not going in that space. So there's the boundaries, and here's the expectations. The expectations is we're all in this together. What did you do? You pulled a group of guys together, right? Presumably guys, but you pulled the site team together and said, okay, folks, what do we do to get around this? And what shows up because of the psychological safety? You've got this person who's been there a week. Here's the solution. That's magical, right? Where can be very different in other organizations where shit's going downhill and you get all the big minds, the big guys and girls together and say, how do we solve this, right? When you peel back the layers, people doing the work. Super cool. Thank you. Okay, so next burning question for you. It's in top of my mind, right? You grew up in construction. I got that. The audience out there gets that. It was sort of incubated with you. That doesn't mean that you had to stick with construction. Like, why bother? What kept you in construction instead of pivoting a different way to say, I've taken this, I've seen this, and I'm going to go a different direction? Why construction?
My dad did something very smart, and I have a daughter now. She's a year and a half, and I understand it now. I didn't then. He did two things. Number one, he said, you're going to learn this trade no matter what. Was non-negotiable. As soon as I could work, he's like, you will learn it. However, whether or not you stick with it is completely up to you. As a matter of fact, he said, I hope you end up being a doctor or a lawyer and you don't have to work as hard as I did. So I had this very weird situation where I learned it. I was forced, right? Which for me, I wanted to do it anyway, but he was very clear. He was like, you will learn the respect of working with your hands. He's like, that is a non-negotiable. My sister learned. I mean, he brought my sister out on the job site too. I mean, it was that was our family. And how we did it. But then as I got later in life, I went to college, I'm working, I interned at a big company. He was like, go explore, go see what's out there. He didn't try and hold me in. And so it just made me want to work in the business more because I was employee number 1,363 and, nobody knew who I was. Like, it was just, I got to see it. And so it was those two data points. You must learn it. And then it was like, great, now that you've learned it, go explore, go see. What do you want to do? And I came right back.
That's cool, right? And there's something unique that if there's opportunities out there, folks, the biggest thing is, as parents, we want the best for our children. So here, learn something. If the way you describe it, you're 9 years old sleeping on the floor. Well, if there's any takeaway, it's, the work ethic, the cleanliness, the importance of having a clean floor. Like, that's the foundational starting point of everything. It's like fixing your bed in the morning. When you fix your bed, it's the first thing you do. You get back into bed at night. It's your bed. It's comfortable. You walk into the shop and the floor is clean. You're not going to walk in there and go, holy shit, this place is a disaster. Right? So, and having the opportunity to sort of pivot in and out of that is cool, right? We're all curious we don't know what we don't know, but what would have changed if you were sort of put into a different position. All right, so, and I think I'd like to pivot into there to, family organization. Talk to us about that. I mean, 100 years collectively in business. Take us down that pathway. How did it start? Where we're at today? And, let's just start there.
Yeah, I mean, very much a blue-collar dream. I mean, those are the people I look up to the most. My great-grandfathers both came from Italy, so my grandmother's father, grandfather's father, from Italy to America. They worked menial jobs, they bought land, and then they built their homes from the ground up. My great-grandfather, Matteo, they called him Matty the Mole because he would dig. Like, when he dug the foundation, he actually saved all the stones, and that's what he built his fireplace with, his foundation wall. Like, it was just, they did it because they loved it, and I think that's what's unique in my story is that, like, we never set out to be contractors. This was art. They liked building. It was on a Saturday or Sunday on their day off, they built, right? And then on their days working when the business grew. And we became contractors when we worked for people who spoke English. Like, my grandmother would tell me when I was young, she'd say, I remember when Pop, which was her father, was a contractor, when I used to have him write the proposals in English. I would study with my teacher and have him help write, like, the little agreements that they would sign. And it was family who loved it. It grew, and they had, a couple things that made us strong. Treat customers like they're your neighbors. My grandfather told me, any decision you make in business, if you pretend like it's your neighbor, you'll always make the right decision. If you live next to him. That was one.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a big one. And then honest day's work for an honest day's pay. Never see the temptation of trying to retire off any one project. You'll never do it. And those two things stick with me. I mean, that past 104 years straight down. Those are two big ones.
Yeah, and that's really cool, right? To have the visibility and the connection to talk through that, to say, like you've actually spent time listening, right? You didn't sort of just, it doesn't seem like you showed up with ego. And I mean, you described it, your dad never allowed that. There was no ego. So you didn't show up, as a jerk. You showed up to listen, to learn. And something that really resonated and struck a chord with me is that line of treat every customer like a neighbor. Like, pretty powerful, right? And what shifts when we think that way? When we think, and perhaps this is what's missing on some projects today, right? When you think of the person as a neighbor, meaning I'm going to have to spend time with them, see them, hang out with them, have a drink with them, have a coffee with them, be outside cutting grass together, whatever we're going to be doing, right? Nobody wants to live beside a shitty neighbor. Right? It's like, hey man, the barbecue's on. Come and eat something. Come and enjoy. Well, on an espresso, come and hang out and just be human beings together. Like what? I want that just to sink in, folks, for a second. Like take that in. If we treat every customer as our neighbor, like what actually starts to shift? So now, Matt, I want to pivot back to you. You've seen this. You have that ideology, that philosophy. What have you seen shift in relationships over the years?
Well, I think the industry as a whole has shifted away from the relationship model. I think technology created space. I started when we did the Yellow Pages, right? So there was no online, there was no marketing. It was like word of mouth. It was, that. Technology makes it very easy to not have a relationship with somebody, but I think leaning into that, like if you're listening, leaning into relationships across the board is one of the most powerful things. And I'm talking, I have relationships with my competitors. I don't believe I have competitors. I got companies bigger than me, and I got companies smaller than me, and I'm friends with a lot of them. We refer each other projects. Yeah. I'll get a call, hey Matt, this for my construction company, hey Matt, this job's too big for me. Can you take it on? Or I'll call them, hey, I got a small project, too small. Like the relationships in all areas are the most powerful accelerator for where it is you want to go, I think.
Yeah. And at the end of it, this excites me because the thing that sort of shows up in my mind, and I'm going to volley it over unsolicited, is, reputation. Our reputation is all we've got. It goes with us. So, like, who do you really want to show up as? That's right. I love that. Relationships. And it's not about competition. It's about, collectiveness. How do we do this together, right? And so when you show up with a relationship first mindset, what do you see happens with the contractor customer or contractor client relationship? Like, how is it different for you?
Well, I think we have the principle of treating them like they're our neighbor, and so you just do things differently, right? I mean, you just got that North Star. I mean, that's the cheat code for us. Like, I remember when I was running the company early on, and I would literally ask this question. I'd be like, I would get calls, right? As we were growing, and I think now we have 10 crews, yep. Right? Residential, commercial, government work. But like early days, it was like, what would you do if they're your neighbor? And they'd be like, well, and they would answer the question and be like, do that thing. And so I think it's the
wow. Yeah. Wow. And so, okay, so bring me into that now, right? If that, I love the framework there. That's the North Star. And I'm going to make an assumption, so please clarify here because I don't always like assumptions, but it sounds like, that is, guiding principle number one throughout the entire organization, right? Yeah. And so if we lean into that as that being the North Star, how does that impact hiring, retention, like the right people in the right spots, to finding the right people? I want to hang out in this space for a moment because there's a lot of folks out there who are saying, yeah, Jonathan, Matt, you guys are talking about some really cool shit. I can't get people to work. And if you don't have people that work, we can't grow. We can't get and that sort of negative rhetoric that happens. I want to pull the handbrake here and stay in this space. That treat everybody like they're your neighbor as a guiding principle. What shifted organizationally for you?
I mean, a lot. It became easier to scale because you had something that, I mean, one of the issues we had is as we grew, we had leaders in certain areas of the business that weren't me. So you created space between, myself and there was multi-layer communication. And so it kept everyone focused on the same thing. It allowed for a culture to be established without having to be, a dictatorship. It didn't have to be something that was forced upon people. It was like, here's a framework that everyone can understand. And we've never had pushback, right? It was like, well, what would you do if they're your neighbor? And I think on the hiring side, we just because it's harder to do something, I found, at least for me in particular, I found that sometimes the hardest things have the biggest payoffs. And, there was a time where getting on the internet to market was very difficult, right? When you were one of the first people to do it. But the early people who figured it out, massive payout. Then there was the same thing with SEO, search engine optimization. It was like everyone's got websites. The first few people to figure out that really difficult way of standing out amongst everybody else got the big payout. We're there with hiring right now. It's possible. I do it with companies all the time. For when we're talking about the contractor consultants, we will pull up competitors. We'll be like, here's 287 companies that are all licensed to do what you do. The people are out there. Are you set up to find them? Right? So there are people who want to work, but it's just much harder today, like objectively so, it's much harder today to find those people. But the payoff is much greater because the biggest asset, I mean, I have a friend of mine who does, he does private equity, right? So they're buying up construction companies. And he said, we don't care about their branding. We don't care about their trucks, their customer list, how much job does they have. He's like, we want the personnel list. And that was a big light bulb moment for me. Like, you're buying companies for the people that work there. Like, we've finally landed at this point in construction. Unbelievable.
Holy shit, right?
Yeah.
Holy smokes, that's huge. Okay, I think I want to come back to that in a moment, but there's something that struck me before that. You're going through all this, and hang on, you talk about the contractors, consultants. This is, take us into this pathway. I know a little bit about it through some of the research, but tell our audience who may or may not know about it, how it came to be, what problem we're solving, and go into that story there.
Yeah, so I think it was 2019. Business is doing great. I'm doing, I don't know, 3 celebrity homes, I think, at the time. So I'm doing celebrity homes. I'm doing a huge prevailing wage project. It was like 12,000 pieces of granite for the Veterans Memorial Cemetery of Los Angeles. And then I'm doing, I don't remember what, but I was at the pinnacle, and my team kept bringing to my attention, they're like, Matt, we can't find people. We keep selling work, right? I'm checking the sales. We're selling, a couple $100,000 here, $1 million. It was crazy. And I felt amazing. I'm like, this is what my great grandfathers would have wanted. But I was ignoring a key thing, which was my team being like, hey, we're not able to bring more people into the company. And so finally they brought me into this meeting, and they were like, hey, like, shit's going to hit the fan. And they pulled up a whiteboard, and it was columns, right? Column 1 was clients canceling contracts. Column 2 was jobs that were going over. Column 3 was jobs that were a mess because we couldn't get the right people. And it was like we were going 100 miles an hour into a brick wall, and I was going to lose. I mean, I lost nearly $1 million in the span of like 3-4 weeks, right? Because we
wow.
Yeah, it was a pretty painful lesson. Not
because of labor.
Because of labor, yeah. We were. I was like, yeah, post an ad on Craigslist. Yeah, call this guy and see if he's got any people sitting around, or post on Indeed, and nothing was working. And I was ignoring it because I was so excited by the sales, and so then I just became obsessed with this issue, and I traveled the country. I modeled other industries. We ended up basically building out a system, and we made it into a course, kind of all on accident. Like, I figured out what worked for me. Then I helped dozens of my local friends. Then I got involved with the trade association, and I was like, yeah, let me present and show what we're doing. And we got great feedback, and then I made it into this course. But it was about me saying, it was about me going back to my roots of my dad and him struggling to hire and saying, you know what, if I can help other contractors, including myself, with this issue, I think I was hedging a bet that I think the single biggest issue and opportunity in construction is going to be, can you find, vet, hire, and retain top talent? Like, that is going to be the ultimate decision, the deciding factor between if your company grows, you're profitable, and it runs great, or if you're not here 5 years from now. And that's why I put so much time into it.
This is huge, right? This is, what we're talking about. This is why we're talking about navigating construction through the volatility, right? The volatility of people, right? The labor shortages that occur. When you talk about losing $1 million in a period of 3 weeks ish, like there's a punch to that gut. There it is, man. You got egg on your face. You got to figure this out. So you've done all this, but pivot back, like share briefly what you learned, so that our audience out there talks about understands what you're talking about.
So yeah, what I did was I basically took over the hiring process. I was like, for me to understand this fully, I need to do everything. I need to do every interview. I need to be screening resumes. And so I was hiring recruiters. We had a rule where I had these virtual assistants that I was working with. And I told them, I said, I was trying to hire a field manager position. And I said, for every week we don't hire this, we're going to add 3 more recruiters. And at one point, I think I had 57 recruiters working for.
Wow, that's cool. That's pretty cool, right?
I was like, I need to figure this out. So I tried all these different things, and I started to see patterns and trends. I was like, ooh, this works. Oh, that works. Ooh, I see a correlation here. And what I came up with was that there's no one size fits all. And this was the problem, was there were so many people. I had a friend of mine, he had a big HVAC company, 1,000 employees. I went to him, I was like, hey, what are you doing that's working? He's like, Matt, this is the way you do it. You got to do hiring events. I'm like, okay. I try and do a hiring event, right, in my market. No one's showing up. I copied the same exact thing he said. I'm like, this is really tough. He's got 1,000+ employees from doing it. It's not working at all where I am. Same exact formula. So what I realized was, and this is a simple story that kind of highlights it. So I'm at this convention. I'm speaking on recruiting and retention. It's a panel. And to my left is this guy, Southern guy, very smart. He stands up. He's like, I'll tell you what works now in construction. He goes, you got to shake hands, kiss babies, go to church, meet people. He's like, that's what works. Then he puts the mic down, hands it to the woman to my right. She gets up. She's very corporate. She says, no. Hiring now is different. You need to do sponsored job postings, headline testing. You need to do keywords, be online. That's where the candidates are. And I stopped and I just grabbed the mic and I said, you know what? Here's the deal. You got to do all of it, because every market is different. Every competitiveness is different, meaning like how aggressive your competitors are to you. So we have 37 different ways we found that work to find candidates, right? That's in the course. But there is no one size fits all. There's a formula, but it's much more an art than a science. And that's kind of the high level on it in a nutshell.
Well, and I think you summarized it very well, right? Because we have our own biases that we carry forward, and my grandfathers, your grandfathers, everybody would have their own ideologies and philosophies. Say, this is how you do it, right? And when it doesn't work that way, let's just hang out there for a space. The kissing babies, going to church, meeting people. When it doesn't work that way, what happens? Our brain spirals out of control to a negative spaces. Nobody wants to work on and on, whatever that negative pattern is. So it's exciting to hear, like, what you actually did was, rather than subscribing to that, which is really comfortable and easy to do, you actually did the opposite. You actually sort of leaned into the discomfort to say, what if it's not one thing? What if it's multiple? Like 37 different ways. Pretty cool, right? And when you talk about how that was a cool philosophy too, where you're saying, all right, here's the benchmark, folks. Every whatever it was week that doesn't go on, hire another recruiter. 54, like 50 plus people. We're doing something, guys and girls. We're doing something. Something's not working. So keep going, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So where is the contractors, consultants? Where are we at with that today? Who's that accessible to or for? Like, what's the span on that? That's pretty cool.
Well, so we did this course, right? We got endorsement from ZipRecruiter, specifically the co-founder. We're partnered with them, partnered with Indeed. Course did really well. I realized, though, that there was an issue, and the issue was a lot of companies are like, we don't have the bandwidth. And then I went back to the drawing board, and I was like, you're right. A lot of you don't have time to go through 63 video modules and do all this yourself and test and whatnot. And the course is great. So we built out a service, and our whole mission is to help companies sub 1,000, basically get smaller companies to be able to hire like the big companies for a fraction of the price. So we do, because the big companies, they're getting through, right? The ones who have a full-time person that all they do is reach out and respond to candidates who apply, right? They've got a full-time headhunter. When the companies like they're able to figure it out. They got 1,000 employees and they're doing it, and you find it in almost every market. So what we do specifically is we handle the administrative burden of hiring. So we post to 157 job boards. We write the job descriptions. We build the creative assets like the graphics. We screen the candidates within 3 to 10 minutes. We do the initial screening interview. So like the business owner, all they're doing is getting the final interview and saying yes or no. And then we help them with like the hire paperwork, which is like reference checks, background checks. So we're trying to make these smaller companies, 5 employees, 50, 100, 3. We're trying to make them more competitive with the big companies that have, full-time people that are doing this, because it's a lot like marketing, right? If a company or if a client goes onto your website and fills out a lead form and you contact them the next day, well, guess what? Between when they filled out that lead form and when you contact them, they're filling out more and more and more. They're calling, right, until they get 3 to 5 people that reach back out, and they go, okay, I'll hold to you. It's the same thing with hiring. A lot of companies don't have one person dedicated to doing this, and that one person doesn't know a proven formula. So that's what we're trying to solve in the marketplace.
So hang on a second. I want to pump the brakes here a little bit. Sounds like there's a couple of options here. I can learn the content myself, right? And that's going to take whatever that's going to take, a bunch of modules, hours of investment, and that's cool. And that might serve me well. Or the other option I think I'm hearing, and please clarify, if I came to you and said, Matt, shit, I need 10 carpenters within the next month. Can you help? Is it as simple as that?
Yeah, that's literally, we have that. We need about an hour onboarding session where we go through everything, but my team will build I built what I needed. I built what I wish my dad had 40 years ago. That's what we built. We streamlined this entire thing to a place where it's like, what is the biggest pain point? Well, we realized, okay, every company that has more than one employee has some means of hiring, right? They've got some means, otherwise the one employee wouldn't be there. So we started to strip it back and realize, okay, they just don't have, it's a bandwidth and formula question. Like what my team is going to do is they're going to do keyword tested headlines, and they're going to have the bandwidth to constantly improve your job postings and from a keyword perspective online. And on top of that, we're going to be able to take on the administrative, like when someone applies, my team's getting to them within 5 minutes, reaching out. Thank you so much for applying. Hey, want to ask you a couple like that level of speed is what companies need, that level of, but how do you get that when everybody's overworked because you're understaffed?
Got it. And so you're finding that if there's a skilled tradesperson out there, they are going to these portals of, Indeed or whatever else there is, ZipRecruiter, to find jobs. That's true?
Well, sometimes. So that's a great question. So we have a tiered approach. So we manage organic postings. We manage sponsor postings. We do geofencing. So geofencing is technology where we put an invisible fence around competitors and suppliers so that people who walk through that location see an ad, specifically a hiring ad. So we have all of these different ways. This is just one of many ways that we find candidates. We also help them build out a referral incentive. We build out what we call a recruiting card, a simple card that's got a proven layout that they can hand out to people they know. So we're hitting it from many different angles. So what we're basically saying is, look, short of cloning your great people, if they exist and they're in your area, or they come in at any point, right? They move, they leave, they quit a job, a business goes under, right? Somebody sells. You're finding them because you've got the biggest net and the most bright billboard, with your information on it. And that's really the game that we're playing.
Okay, this is so cool. And this goes back to a whole bunch of different things. My brain is going bananas here. This is, again, fostering that relationship talking, right? Because if I'm going to come to you and say, Matt, find me 10 carpenters tomorrow, we're now organically starting a relationship. And it's going to help. You're going to alleviate. Now you're alleviating the stressors off of me so that I can go and build my business or do the work that I'm good at, which many business owners struggle to say, shit, I can't find people to do the work. And that becomes the sort of energy sucking philosophies of the days rather than going to get the work and figure out how to refine things. And so now I'm making an assumption here again, so clarify, this is not a transactional thing. Like once we connect, we're going to stay connected for a while because every time we're going to need people. Matt, I'm assuming this could be cool because it's like, hey, in 6 months time, Matt, I'm going to need 30 more people. Start today, right?
Yeah, I mean, my belief is
right?
hire early, hire often, right? So you gotta have
Yeah.
your billboard out there every day. So a lot of companies are like, we need 10 people, and I'm like, okay, when do we need 10? Well, we needed them, 6 months ago. It's like, well, we gotta be. So we have an active and passive model. So for basically $1,500 a month, we're gonna do 3 positions, and we're gonna actively do all this stuff. We have a passive model where we're screening and building your pipeline if you don't actively need people. So if you drop down, if you're like, hey Matt, you know what? You filled my positions, we're good right now. We're still advertising and keeping a relationship with these people for a fraction of what I just mentioned. And the goal of that is so that when you tell us we need 10 carpenters, I can look back at my tracking system and see, because there's only 2 types of people on that list, right? List 1 is I'm still looking for a job. Great, we got them. We'll reach out to them. Or list 2 is I just started a job. Well, we know what happens to people who recently start jobs 30 days, 60 days in. Are you happy? Do you like it? Are you still willing to entertain a phone call?
Yeah.
Building that is huge.
So are you still engaged in that process, or is that where you turn it back over to the organization? Like now they do their own onboarding,
So
30
the
days, 60
onboarding,
days, 90-day check-in.
onboarding is the company, so we don't touch that. That's their own specific methods. Our job is to get them the right people and then to hand over. So pre-screened interview, right? Company does final interview, and then the background check reference, like we help with that side of things to just keep things moving for them. Because that's really where
And
they
then you're
need that.
tapping out, which is cool. Well, you're right. You're tapping out at that point because most organizations are fundamentally set at that point in time. You bring the right people in the door. We've got our philosophies, ideologies. They're going to be incubated and sort of brought into that orbit the way they're going to brought in. So hang on a second. I want to pivot back here to put this into granular perspective, because there's a whole bunch of folks out there going, yeah, you guys are talking great things. Like, what am I in for? And I heard you say the number of $1,500. So $1,500 today. I mean, obviously there's tolerances in there, but $1,500 a month today is like you're doing all the work. Did I capture that correctly?
Yeah, we're doing all that. Yeah, we're doing all that. And we're doing it for up to 3 positions. So we have companies that hire. So like, let's say you have a carpenter. That's a position. We've had companies hire 3 or 4 carpenters in the span of a month and a half or 2 months, and there's no additional fees or anything. Like it's per position.
Like I'm in for that. That's cool, right? Because every day I'm losing money in theory because I can't take on new work. I can't execute the work. I gotta deal with the phone calls that why don't you have guys here? Why don't you have people here? Well, we've done that to ourselves. So for $1,500, what the hell are we waiting for? That's my wholehearted approach, folks. That's not no plug. That's like I'm banging my head in the window going like, are we silly to say no to this? This is a fantastic idea. So now, hang on. I'm in Canada, you're in US. Does this work in Canada? Has it been executed in Canada?
Yeah, we have. Oh my gosh, I won't name them. There are some well-known people out there, but yeah, we've got 5 or 6 Canadian clients that I can rattle off right off the top of my head that we've done this success. Actually, a few of them have hired multiple positions in the first 4 or 5 weeks. Like we've been very successful in there.
This is like the fireworks just went off in my head. And I'm not talking like the Canada Day fireworks. I'm talking the 4th of July fireworks. And if anybody's ever experienced Canada Day versus 4th of July, there's a dramatically different philosophy and ideology that occurs. Like, that's it, folks. Holy shit. We're struggling. We're trying. Thank you, Matt, and team behind Matt, who's helped incubate this model. Right? You didn't say, I love it. I love it. It's like, never mind the one thing that worked 10 years ago, the one thing that worked last time we found our good folks. Here's what's working today. It's a holistic approach. Thank you. Anything around that maybe, I'm flabbergasted. Anything we missed on that so far? Anything else you want to add in on that?
We build out the assets. Depending on what assets they have, we might need to build out a little bit more. There might be a setup fee there, but yeah, we built what we wanted in the industry. I was sick of recruiters and their exorbitant fees. I was sick of staffing companies and them taking advantage and giving me bad talent. I was sick of the administration. I wanted to build something. Our team, and hats off to my team. We've got an amazing head of fulfillment. I've got an amazing, speaking on behalf of everybody on the team, but we just, we're for contractors by contractors, and everyone's got construction roots, and most everybody in the company, and we just we want to help. Like that's the deal.
Okay, this is cool. And I'm going to share information that that's this is all information out there, but I got to ask these questions. Like, you're in your 30s, man. There's 24 hours in a day. You're running multiple businesses. You've written books. You've written curriculum. You've started businesses. You've grown businesses. You've made the financial fortunes that many seek to occur. Like, how the hell do you do it all? What's the secret sauce?
For me, I had two big things. One was the desire to really push the family business. That was the initial fuel for hitting some of those milestones. I felt pressure, 3 other generations of pressure, to be honest. So there was immense pressure when I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. There was a lot riding on it. That's why the $1 million hurt, because I'm like, am I going to tank the family business? Like, the $1 million, sure, that can come and go. But so it was that, and then the other part of it is, I had my daughter, and I started looking at things, and I'm like, I made the mission much bigger than me, right? Like, I was very content when I was like, what does Matt want? But when I started looking and thinking, like, who can I help? What can I do? Like, how many people out there are like my dad, or even where I was 6, 7, 8 years ago? Like, how many of those working hard, 16-hour days, tired, coming home to their families? Like, I was doing everything. Like, I was so frustrated because I'm like, dude, I'm doing all the right stuff and I'm not getting where I need to go. And so I made the mission bigger than me, and that's what fuels me. I mean, the course, self-funded, self-made, spent, I don't even know how much money, right? Like, I just tried to make the best version of things to help an industry that I'm in love with. I mean, I look up to the blue-collar workers, like my dad coming home at 9 o'clock at night, covered in chimney dust, and just exhausted, right? Like, doing that for our family. And that's the people that inspire me every day.
So for our audience out there who's sort of in similar pathways, and what's a big insight? What's something you think that you've learned is worth sharing with them?
I mean, two things that stick out. One is take the hiring seriously. Get obsessed with hiring. Like, everything else will, in my opinion,
I love that.
Like, I was listening to a book, right? And it was a multi-billionaire, right? He's talking about his life and his journey, right? This guy's worth billions of dollars, and he's talking about a story of how he met this person in a restaurant, and he's trying to poach him. He was a manager. And I'm going, he didn't say this in the book, but I stopped and listened. I said, if a billionaire is spending their time on hiring and team building worth billions of dollars, and that's the thing they're focused on, there's something here. And so hire early, hire often, become obsessed with building your team, because you're building an asset. Like, when going back to my merger M&A friend, right, the private equity guy, like, that's the asset that's the core component of the asset. If you ever want to sell your business, you ever want to partner, you ever want to just retire and have the business run itself, like, you need a team of people, right? This is the stuff my dad didn't know. So that's one. And then the second is, I think there needs to be an element of having a bigger mission that's outside of you. And for me, that's always been growing my teams, providing amazing places to work. Like, when you got to find the thing that things changed for me when I found the thing that was bigger than me. When I was thinking about me, right, what do I want? How much money do I want to make? What do I want for my family? Like, I was doing well, but I lost steam, right? Like 2019, that was right around the time where I was really thinking about me, right? Sales and growing the business and profit. And that's when I got my butt kicked. And when you make the mission, like, what are you getting out of bed for? Is it your clients? Is it building an amazing? Like, is it your family, your friends? You want to be the community leader that you never had? Like, how can you make this bigger than yourself? Because there's something magical about us humans when we will do more for other people than we'll typically do for ourselves. And I think anyone listening will relate to that.
Yeah, our audience out there has heard that frequently, and they can relate to that. So, this is pivoting. This is where I want to sort of open up, that rib cage and really get into the heart, and tell our audience some of the biggest, the biggest challenge that you've learned going through all this. And if hey guys, I did this and it sucked. Learn from it.
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot of my journey. I felt like a loser. I don't know if anyone can relate, but I'm like doing this thing, like, I almost tanked the family business. I'm losing $1 million. I find out my daughter's on the way 4 months later or whatever it was. Like, there's moments where you feel like you're just absolutely, I'm not the glitz and glamour guy. I'm probably a little too real and raw in that sense. But I think it's about when you have that bigger mission, like, I don't think in 2019 losing $1 million and not knowing, how I was going to pull all this together. I got a team of people that they're relying on me to pay their bills. And when I flipped it and I was like, I need to do this for my team. I need to do this for my family. I need to do this for my community. I need to do this for my dad. Like, I just started writing out the people that I need to do this for. And then it was like, boom, I found the steam. But it's not like, I think that's an important thing to highlight. It's not all glitz and glamour. Like, I felt absolutely horrible. I'm like, my dad, when I would make a mistake, he'd be like, you tank the business, you're going to waste 3 generations. Like, I didn't always have it great. Like, it wasn't always like a big, easy, we're doing big projects, we're risking things. But when the mission is bigger than you will find a way.
I love that. And thank you. You're smiling about that today, and it wasn't always. And, for the folks out there who are listening on audio and not necessarily watching it on video, there was the thing that sort of illuminated was that rawness that you describe, and you also identify you did the hard work. Like, you sat there and you wrote things out. I heard you say, you wrote down the people who's going to impact, the things you want to achieve. You didn't just sort of fluff through life doing it, saying, okay, shit, it's going to happen or it's not. Like, it's that old adage of, you're burn the boats, your back's against the wall, you got one way to go. What are you doing this for? And actually do the work, write it out, figure it out. And that becomes your I'm going to go back to your metaphor, which I love, the North Star. That's your guiding compass. Right? And is there something that top of mind for you that shows up? We're all human beings, right? And we all struggle, and we all have good days, dark days, and gray days. And is there something top of mind for you that sort of stands out to say, if we talked about X more, it would make the human species a better place to be? Does anything show up for you?
Yeah, I think our struggles. There are so many times, like, people. Now I'm getting a lot more recognition for things that I've done. But, like, when I was the dirty kid in college where everyone was making fun of me, right? And they're like, what do you mean you're going to go break rocks for a living? What do you mean you're going to dig holes? Like, this wasn't always glamorous. A majority of my young adult life was like, really? You're going to do that? And then every time I failed, whether it was a problem or I'm sitting on the side of the road in the rain with a broken down truck, right? I'm hearing those voices, which is like, oh, you're not going to go to college. You're not going to get a safe job. You're not going to do this. Like, what do you do? And so I think if we really leaned into the struggles a little bit more, I think we'd have and I'm not talking superficial struggle. I'm talking the ones like what I just mentioned, truck's broken down, you're on the side of the road. I'm canceling dinner plans again with my significant other. And she's like, again? And I'm like, I'm sorry, the truck broke down. I'm covered in rain. Got my guy next to me. He's complaining because we're not getting, like, those are the moments that I think people need to hear. It's not, it's great to talk about all the beautiful things. And I love that, but it's like, there's a realness to this. Like, I guarantee I went through a lot of the same things of any one of you listening, herniated a disc at 18 in my back, right? I'm hung up, can't move, physical therapy 4 times. Like, those are the things I think we need to kind of bring everybody, because it brings us all together. We go, wow, well, so this is actually part of the journey then. I'm on the right path, not I'm deviating.
Right. And thank you for being real about it. That's the thing, is that we live in a space today where, at any moment in time, we can open our phones and we can go on to social media and have that, happy dopamine hit of, look how fucking wonderful things are. In the meantime, you're sitting on the side of the road, covered in mud, broken down truck. It sucks, right? There's a low point, right? That doesn't get talked about. It's like, oh yeah, we finished the job, and the job went well. Yeah, and when that job sucked? Do you remember that Friday afternoon? It was 5:00 and we're sitting on the side of the road, 30 miles out from our destination, nobody in sight, tired, broken, hungry, and at that moment in time, look at the narrative that starts in your head. Is this right? Our brains are designed to keep us comfortable, and your brains are going back to, what the hell are you doing, man? What are you doing, slugging rocks and mortar and stone? And you can be dry and comfortable, and that's it, right? And so we don't talk about that. Thank you. This is it, folks. We need to get the right people around you so that you can pick up the phone and say, how you doing? I'm doing shit. I'm having an awful time right now. And I'm not looking for a solution. I'm simply looking for somebody to listen. So thank you, Matt. If we, and I want to leave our audience with that, and say, like, what could shift for you if we simply shared vulnerably some of the real raw stuff we actually go through as human beings. And not as an egotistical check the box, oh, look at all the shit I go through. No, I don't care about that. I'm saying in those moments where we're in a space where we can share that with young upcoming professionals, imagine what it's like to share that with young children, to say, sometimes it's going to suck. Well, what do you mean? Well, here's a scenario that I lived through, sitting on the side of the road. Yours might be very different. Maybe you're stuck in a hot air balloon that's lost control. I don't know. The point is that it's going to happen, and how it's not about screwing up or not getting it. It's about the recovery. How do we pivot past that? You pulled some heartstrings there, Matt. So thank you. Our audience out there needs to know that. Like, you're not alone, folks. Pick up the phone, send a text. You're not the first person or the last person to go through struggles in life. We've all got struggles. They're all painted differently. So thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
This has been a pleasure. Like, there's so much buzzing around, and there's we got to do this again. There's so many more conversations to be had about this. You are up to some magical things. The takeaway of, like, be obsessed with hiring, right? Hire early, hire often, and you don't need to do it alone. Like, here we go. You've pivoted through so many different things. I got to ask a few sort of questions that are top of mind for me, and it's you talk about all these stories. And there's been so many people in life. I want to know, like, is there somebody out there that you truly admire that says, like, this is who I look up to. This is who I want to model my behaviors after.
It's the blue collar work. Like, it's the people that get up every day. I see it all the time. I was at a gas station a week ago, and I saw a woman. She was carrying her baby, and the shoe fell off, and it was raining out. And this guy, he was in an AC truck, right? He runs out and he grabs a shoe covered in, it's raining. He grabs it and he runs into the gas station and gives it. And I was like, those are the people that inspire me every day. Like, just the hardworking people that get up and do what they got to do.
Beautiful, right? And again, there's that realism. Like, I'm not chasing somebody that's on, this magical trajectory. You're real, you're raw. You're saying, look, thank you, folks, for being out there and doing what you do. All right. So, first thing that comes to mind, I'm going to ask the question. The question is, what does construction need more of, or less of?
Needs more people. That's for sure. We need more people to join it. I think we need to change the stigma. I think there's no better time to be in construction, and I think construction needs more people cheerleading it and sharing their wins, as well as some of their losses that led the way. Because if we could show people that when you have an issue, you're actually on the right path, not the wrong path. And not only that, but I think we're all taught to be very humble. I'm one of those. I'm not a social media guy. You won't find me posting pictures of my family. Like, I felt very weird sharing my wins, but I realized that it could inspire people, and so I did. I think we need more people being like, hey, this is what I was able to achieve, and not just being quiet and humble on the sideline, which was exactly what I did. I was taught not to say those things.
Thank you. That's so cool and so wonderful to hear. So, last question here. I want you to envision this. There's an airplane flying through the sky, one of those banners behind it, and that banner's got a message on it. It's your message. It's one message you want to share with the world. What's on that banner for you, flying behind that plane?
You could be one hire away.
One hire away. Right. One hire away can change everything. Thank you, Matt. True honor, true pleasure. How do people connect with you? This is magical. There's so much more. The people out there want to know more. How do they get in touch with you?
Website's great. Or you can email me. So MD and then at the company name. So at thecontractorconsultants.com. So I'm sure you'll have it in the thing or whatnot.
Yeah, thanks. No need for everybody to sort of try to scribble that down. That's going to be in the show notes. It's going to be really easily accessible for you. It's going to be a one thumb click, and I'll take you right through there. Thank you, Matt, for taking us down what it's like to navigate through construction, which is such a highly volatile market when it comes to personnel. So it's been an honor, a pleasure. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time, and I respect what you're up to, man. This is great. Thanks for being part of the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for doing the great work you're doing.
Thanks, Matt. This has been great, Matt. Thank you. The recording is currently stopped, and